Hello, I am now doing meeting number 3 of my first book, It Ends With Us. So, in this section, it starts off, Lily finally reads the last of her diary entries, which describes Atlas surprising her by visiting for her 16th birthday. So as she's kept reading through all these diary entries, she grows closer to Atlas, and you can tell that, they have an emotional connection. They have, sorry, I'm flipping my phone, this deeper connection, and, you can basically just see that develop throughout her entries. So in this one, he had left for Boston, and his visit cheers up Lily, who had been, really sad that he had gone. And he's leaving for the military soon, but he promises that, he's gonna go and find Lily when he's done with his military service. They then sleep together, and Atlas gives her this souvenir magnet, and Lily hadn't locked the door because she didn't really expect anything to happen, but her dad comes in and basically starts whacking Atlas with a bat, and he hurts him, and Atlas has to be taken to the hospital, and Lily's like having a panic attack, and she has to go to the hospital too because she's just having this massive panic attack. And so you can see how that's kind of traumatizing, and his behaviors and aggression that he usually portrays towards her mother is now being portrayed towards another person that she clearly loves in the story, and that probably, freaked her out and made her like him a lot less, because, you can see her descriptions of her father, just like, they're never good, they're always bad, even if it's talking about, like, a normal moment, which is very uncommon. It's usually something bad that he's done, but even if she's talking about, like, just, a normal childhood moment, he is always depicted very negatively. And so this situation probably made that a lot worse for her, because she had never seen that anger put towards someone else other than her mother. And so she has to go to the hospital because she's having a panic attack, and her whole town finds out, basically, and they, like, shame her family because he's homeless, and everyone just has these bad ideas of him and all these things because he is homeless and, like, wears the same clothes and stuff like that, and people just know and make assumptions of him and how he is and how he ended up that way, which, no one knows, like, how he even got to the point. They kind of just assume that he's, this, like, dirty kid who probably has all these things wrong with him and stuff like that, and, like, messed up and alone and whatever. But, so they, like, Lily's family feels a lot of guilt and shame from this, and everyone's just being really rude and gossipy about it, and you can see this really take a toll on Lily. She gets really upset, but she mentions that her feelings for Atlas hadn't changed. She even had a tattoo of the heart that he carved for her inked on her collarbone, where Atlas liked to kiss her. And then, after this whole ordeal, she ended up moving to Boston and diverges paths with Atlas. And, clearly they come back around, but that's just what happens in the journal entry. So, so what I had thought of that was you could definitely tell Lily and Atlas had that emotional connection. Clearly they had all kinds of connections, and yeah, it's almost like it makes her want to like him even more, that her family and everyone despises him. Not that that's the only reason she likes him, but just, it's kind of like all of everyone telling her that she shouldn't like him and shouldn't be with him just kind of makes her want to be with him even more. So yeah, oh my gosh, I keep closing my computer and it's getting rid of my notes my talking points I wrote down. But yeah, so moving on, back to the present day. She continues seeing differences between Ryle and her father, so she's still making all these excuses for Ryle, so she knows what happened was obviously bad, but she is looking at the differences between Ryle and her father and basically just concludes that he's still a good person. She says Ryle is compassionate, but Lily is still torn and mentions a fight that they had like a few weeks ago in the book where Ryle wanted them to move to Minnesota for a job opportunity, and Lily refuses to do this because she has her floral shop she's working on, and he knocks a vase over, and then he comes back like an hour later and agrees to stay in Boston. And as this is happening, Lily receives a message from Alyssa, but it turns out that it was from Ryle. He bought up an apartment for them in the same building as Alyssa and her partner, Marshall. So Lily is, kind of taken back that he hasn't consulted her beforehand, but she's happy with the apartment. So that whole section of that chapter just really, I didn't like it. Lily's making all these excuses, which is basically just her being in denial, and I'm sure she'll finally come to light. I just hope that happens before anything gets too bad or serious, like the issues are too serious between them. But yeah, so the whole fight about Ryle wanting to move to Minnesota for a job opportunity and getting all mad, that just kind of really struck me the wrong way, because the way he presented it too, he wasn't even like asking her, he was just very like demanding and was like, this is what's has to happen, like you're gonna have to comply basically and do this and da-da-da. It just seemed very controlling and like narcissistic and only wanted what's best for him. And while I am personally a kind of person who also would want to do what's best for myself and not make sacrifices in a relationship, I wouldn't force my partner to do anything. Like if they didn't want to, that would just be it for me. So I saw a whole issue with this, because he's not like asking and just saying that okay, he'll go do it on his own and focus on his life and whatever. He wants these very specific things for the both of them, and when she doesn't want to do that, he just rages and gets so mad and knocks over vases and has been hurting her, and that's just not a correct reaction. Like he's acting like a big baby about it essentially, and I just don't like him. But yeah, for example, like I if I needed to move to another state, because I also do want to be a neurosurgeon, if I had an opportunity to move to another state and I had a partner, I wouldn't I wouldn't just force them to, but also if this was a really good opportunity for me and they didn't want to do that, then I would, you know, be independent and take the opportunity for myself, because I'm not one to make sacrifices for other people, really. Like, I would do what's best for myself, so it's not that I have an issue with him. It's just that it wasn't like an ultimatum thing for him. Even he just like went in like demanding that was what's going to happen. But I mean, obviously it doesn't, because then he ends up buying the apartment. But back to what I was saying with me, if my partner didn't want to do that, I consider myself a very independent person. I'm always going to do what's best for myself, and I personally feel like I would be someone to put my job ahead, or ahead of my relationships, which I don't know if that's even a good thing. Like, I don't know, I guess it would depend on what's best for me, but I personally see like opportunities for myself and my future more important than people, and I would never choose a place or turn down an opportunity for another person, let alone if we're looking at the Lily side of this. I would never want to move somewhere for someone else if I'm starting a business where I am. Like, I don't even understand how Ryle was mad about that. It's just that he only thinks about himself, I guess, and he just wants everything to go his way and Lily to fall on her knees for him and just do what he wants and, you know, move to Minnesota. But she just started her business literally with his sister, and it's up and running, and she's obviously so excited about it. She's always talking about it and working on it, and, you know, just so excited to see its success. And he acts like he's all happy for her and he understands and whatnot, but, you know, he's clearly not really listening, because he just asked her to give it all up for him, and they haven't even been together that long. So I don't really know what's going through his head, and I'm glad that she said no. Like, she clearly still is having some strength here to not do stuff that's completely insane, because that would just be awful. Like, she would give up her hopes and dreams all for this guy who is toxic and manipulative. So, you know, it's not even like he's someone that's healthy for her, because I mean, I still wouldn't move for them anyway. I would focus on my business, but it would at least be a little more understandable if she were like, oh yeah, I'll go with you, if they were like a normal healthy person and they like brought her joy and not stress. But he's completely the opposite. So I'm very glad that she said no about that. So then we find out that he's bought the apartment for them in the same building as Alyssa and her partner. And, you know, Lily is just like, she goes along with it, which is what I'm kind of just distraught about. You know, she has some thoughts. He's like, oh, he didn't really talk to me about this first, like, but she still goes along with it. I don't know, even if I did want to live with someone, if they didn't ask me first and just assumed that that's what I wanted to do too, or just didn't even assume what I wanted at all and that's what they wanted, and they just bought an apartment for us to live in and we're like, here, I would just immediately be like, no, that's not what I want, and just try and like prove them wrong, because I don't want anyone making decisions for me. I don't know, I just really don't like him. But she's happy with the apartment, I feel like the situation is just really gonna go wrong. And personally, you know, he just doesn't think about her feelings or anything she wants. He's like a narcissist, he's toxic, manipulative, like, all this stuff. There's a lot wrong with him, and it's clearly getting more like obvious because we've had those situations of abuse happening. So clearly the readers like aren't even supposed to like him anymore. So I really hope that she like changes her mind about the apartment, but I don't know, she's also kind of like, she is like in love with him, so she kind of just does whatever. But yeah, anyways, so Alyssa's pregnant now. In the last meeting I talked about how she was having issues conceiving, so she took up the job at the florist shop essentially to just fill up a ton of time, because she wanted to distract herself from her infertility, basically. But now Alyssa is pregnant, and Lily is waiting for her to give birth, and things are going good. This chapter's pretty good. Things are going good with Alyssa's business. I'm glad that they were talking about that, because I really like seeing just the individual Lily side. Did I say Alyssa in my last sentence? I meant Lily. But things are going really good with that, and I'm glad that, as I said in the first meeting, I hope they dig deeper into her success and drives. And I know it's a romance book, but I don't know, I don't really like romance books that much, because it's always just like the protagonist and their lover, like everything discussed throughout the whole book is just the protagonist and another person. It's never about just them and what they want and stuff like that. So I like that they add these aspects of how she is doing apart from Ryle and even Atlas. Like, I just want to hear about Lily and how she's doing. So her shop has been successful, and it was actually selected for this award. I think it was like top 10 new businesses where she lives in Boston. So yeah, that's good. And then Ryle's been successful too. He was accepted for this prestigious training at like Cambridge or something, but I don't really care about him, so whatever. But then Alyssa goes into labor, and Lily and Ryle go and see and meet the baby, and they named it Riley after Ryle. Actually, I don't like that either, but but those are some of the main points for this. So I'm gonna go back and look up some just general questions to answer for these last few minutes. And I'm sorry these meetings aren't like 40 minutes. I figured since I'm just talking to myself, I can pretty much cover everything in about 20 to 25, because I don't have anyone on the other side of me giving opinions. But I'm gonna try and read some like online reviews and stuff like that. I wrote that in my packets. But yeah, let's look up just some book club questions. Sorry. I'm at the same list that I've been looking at. Okay. Let me see. So this one says, of all the important information presented in the book, what has stayed with you the most? So honestly, the thing that has stayed with me the most is, I actually have two things. I'm going to talk about two parts of this, because there is something that I haven't even brought up in any of my meetings yet that I think is a really important component, but I'm going to start with the other one. So one of the first important things is Lily's past with Ryle, because not only does it play a big part in him coming back and resurfacing, but it also plays a really big part in who she is and who she's become, how she acts in relationships and stuff like that, and caring about what other people think, and understanding people because of what he went through. She went through, like, she was able to listen to him and hear his story and stuff like that, so she's very good at understanding people and all that, so he plays a big part in just like who she is. And then also another thing that I find interesting, it's not really like straight up information, but it's just kind of viewing her relationship with her mother. And I think it's really important that honestly her father's death brought them closer. As bad as that sounds, I mean, I don't know if she's even sad that he passed. She straight up like just said nothing good about him at his funeral. But anyways, growing up, like she had a fine relationship with her mother, nothing was wrong with it, but they were never super close or anything, and she always just felt bad for her, and honestly she kind of neglected her and thought that she was like dumb for staying with her father. But now that she's finding herself in a similar situation, she understands a lot more of what her mother was thinking and why she didn't just leave her father. And I think that she's going to end up telling her mom and going to her for advice and stuff like that. And they've also grown closer because her mom has moved closer to her. So I think that's really helped. Her mom just needs someone to talk to and be around, and Lily is more willing and has more respect for her mother as she's grown and like looked back at the situation kind of. So I think that's a really important component, and I think she's going to end up telling her mom about her toxic relationship. And yeah, so that is all I got for today. So I'll see you at meeting 4.